This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Hello and welcome to a special emergency edition of Islanders Anxiety. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Thursday evening, a few moments after the Islanders 5-3 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, this is our first emergency podcast of the year. It's a little earlier, I think, than the first one we did last year, because this team is cooked. Like, there's no other way to put it, right? Like, this team... And we're going to talk about the Ottawa game. We're going to talk about the Flyers game. This Islanders team, as currently constructed, is 100% stick a fork in them cooked. There's no other way to describe how this team plays. I'm sure we could think of a few, and I'm sure we'll come up with a few, but like, watching this game tonight was an infuriating experience. Like, how else would you describe?
Yeah, infuriating is certainly the right word. And watching that second period was almost an out-of-body experience. Because I waited 20-something years of my life for an Islanders team to take pride in being an Islander, right? For an Islanders team to like care about being an Islander player, to understand what it means to be a part of the Islanders, to appreciate Long Island,
Right.
The fan base. We had guys who played hard.
Yeah.
You know, the Mike Sillinger types. These were pros. They came. They played hard. But I'm sure when they look back on their time on Long Island, they're like, "Yeah, it was crazy, man. What an experience. So you just had to be there, right? Kind of thing." And then we thought we had something like that building with the guy we drafted before Victor Hedman. And then that man proved us to be losers and to be fools for thinking that he was going to be the one to instill that pride. And in a weird twist of fate, it's that cowardly move to leave ended up maybe leading to another group of players to actually do it, to become the first team that I saw get it, to understand the mission, to understand the fan base, to connect with the fan base, to take pride in being an Islander every shift, to get the league and the media, the entire kind of hockey sphere, get their tongues wagging about how nobody wants to play the Islanders. Nobody wants to go into Nassau Coliseum or Barclays Center or UBS Arena, or, well, really just the other two.
I got a few things to say about UBS Arena when we get there. I'll tell you in a second, but continue.
Yeah, nobody wants to go into these buildings and play the Islanders.
Right.
Because they make your life hell. The fans are on you because they're part of it. And it felt like that there was this incredible connection between the fan base and the team, because that was what we've been waiting for since the 80s. And it finally happened again. And then you watch that second period tonight, and a lot of those same players are on the team
Yeah.
that played that second period tonight. And I I've never been so embarrassed to be
Mm.
an Islander fan. And it's not like I'm not saying like, "Oh my god, these guys stink." I posted I put a tweet out there of like a game roster from 2008, 2009 with the likes of like Dean McAmmond and Joel Recklitz, and I was like, "These guys were more fun to watch."
Yeah.
Right? And so it wasn't embarrassing because there was a lack of talent on the ice or whatever. It was embarrassing because these guys weren't even hiding the fact that they just didn't give a shit tonight.
Right.
That second period was I get like you're not supposed to question the effort of professional athletes. Like, what do we know? But if we switch spots and the New York Islanders watched you and me podcast that second period, they'd be like, these guys are not trying.
Mm.
That's how it looked. That's how it felt. And I left that when that whistle blew in the second to end the second, the horn blew. I wanted to see a jersey on the ice. I want to see a lot of things, but mostly I just got so mad at myself for not giving up on this team. The second that whatever the hell his name is, Dylan Gunther scored that game-winning goal against them on the opening night.
Right.
Or to go further than that, like I'm upset I didn't give up on this group 2 years ago. Like
Yeah.
we've just wasted so much of our. We talked about how last season could have been a whole waste of time.
Mm.
It's really 4
Yeah.
seasons that have just been a waste of time.
Absolutely.
Truly, truly embarrassing effort. I really felt. I'm so mad at this team. I'm mad at them now.
Yeah.
Not bad about them. I'm mad at them, and that's the worst place to be in a relationship between fan and team.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch them again for the rest of the season, and I know I'll break that promise in 48 hours. But I really, really hope I don't.
It's full on resentment time. Like
Yeah.
I resent this team for making me feel this way. You're 100% right. We are in game 219 of the 21-22 season. That's 3 straight waste of time seasons from this group. And it's fun. I don't want to get into it tonight because it's already late and we want to talk about these 2 games. But I was thinking about it today. I stupidly thought they were going to win this game. I actually thought they were going to win this game and then lose on Saturday to the Sharks on Brent Sutter night or whatever. Because that's
Imagine
sort of like the pattern.
Somebody came to you and said, turned the TV off as soon as Bo Horvat scored that power play goal.
Yeah.
Right. And said, you're not gonna know what happened in a couple hours. We'll tell you exactly. Like you. That's how I felt too. I thought they were gonna win this game, and then I felt it even more when they scored the power play goal. And
well, actually, I thought they were going to win before when they scored that goal. And eventually by the end of that period, they weren't playing that well. And I told one of my friends who's a Flyers fan, I'm like, the Flyers are going to win this game 4-2. And I was close. It ended up being 5-3. It was 4-2 at one point. So I was kind of close. But all I could think about was, anyway, I was thinking today how we kind of we call it the Murphy's Law season, that 21-22 season, the first one at UBS Arena. Where everything went wrong, the 3 COVID outbreaks, the 11-game road trip, Trotz fired at the end of it, the Chara and Parisi experiments. I mean, Parisi was great, but Chara kind of, was his last legs, that whole thing, everything that could have went wrong, the entire Bridgeport team being in the opening night lineup at UBS Arena. I think what we need to do is actually go back and re-examine that season, because that, I think, is where this whole thing went off the rails. Like, they went into that season a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Make no mistake, that team was picked by, I know we make fun of them all the time, but it is significant that a couple of news, journalists and watchers picked this team, this New York Islanders team, to win the Stanley Cup that year. And everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, hence the Murphy's Law designation. But they have never recovered from that season. Absolutely not. It's almost like the team, and God forbid, I know I shouldn't joke about this, but it's almost as if they still have COVID the entire time, right? Like they're playing like a team that literally just came off a COVID pause, and they're just not. They're out of sorts. They don't look right. They've gotten their sea legs back. They couldn't skate. It was, they were in quarantine. Like that's the way it looks for 219 games. It has looked like that. That's 82 plus 82. Plus 6 playoff games, plus 5 playoff games, plus 44 games of this season. 219 games of wasting our time. this game was a huge way. And actually, not only was this game a waste of time, although I'm sure as we're speaking, the team is giving their. I'm glad I was proud we battled in the third period speeches in the UBS Arena locker room. The game on Tuesday was a bigger waste of time. 2-0 loss to Ottawa. They had just won 3 in a row. They're coming home. They got the long homestand. They're playing a bunch of teams that they're chasing directly for a same playoff spot. And what do? They lay one of the biggest eggs we've ever seen Tuesday night against an Ottawa team. Now, in fairness, that Ottawa team played very well defensively in that game. They really did. It was an extremely boring game from the Senators in a good way. They out-Islanders the Islanders. They Islanders the Islanders. I don't know how else I'm trying to say it here, but like they played really well in that game. The Islanders just didn't. They just were, from the opening puck drop, were uninterested in that game. They just, every shot went into Levy Merlakin's chest or glove. And he was great, but there was nobody standing in front of him the entire game. He had the easiest shutout he's ever going to have in his career. This team is cooked. They are now, I just have the standings up here. I'm sorry. They are currently 8 points out of the final playoff berth. The Columbus Blue Jackets are in 7th. The Bruins are in 8th with 49 points. The Islanders have 41 points in 44 games. Now you tell me, do you think that this team is going to make up that 8-point deficit by the end of the season in 30 whatever games and finish in that playoff berth? I don't think so.
No, they're not. And we're now at the point where, if let's say they win Saturday against San Jose, I just won't even. It won't even.
It means nothing.
Won't move. It wouldn't.
Yeah,
it wouldn't move me. It would move me zero. It wouldn't move me at all. And here's the other part: they win Saturday against Columbus, and then they win again on Tuesday against Philadelphia. Still wouldn't move me.
Right.
Because we just saw this team win 3 in a row, play well, and then have the opportunity to come home for 7 games in a row. And all that we've heard them talk about is we've got to start playing better at home because they have been absolute dog shit at home this season. Just absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
At home. And they've said a couple different times, the Sabres game as an embarrassing effort, no excuse. They said it a couple other times. But that's, we now know that this team is just going through the motions in terms of how they are playing the game and also how they are talking afterwards, right? Like they are,
right.
They know exactly what to say to just kind of get the microphones out of their face and move on because once again, there's no media pressure here. So they can go home and go to bed and wake up in the morning and they can turn on the radio and they'll hear about the Knicks or whatever. They don't have to worry. Nobody knows who they are. Yeah. So they don't have to worry about that stuff. We talk about it all the time. That Ottawa game, to me, it sounds like an oversimplification, but what you can say about the Ottawa game is one team worked harder than the other. And in sports, a lot of times, if you could be the team that works harder than the other team and not win, but that was one where the team that worked harder than the other won. And I know a lot of people were pointing to how that game ended with the Senators, the Islanders having an empty net, the Senators digging a puck out of the corner in the Islanders zone off of an Islanders one faceoff, which they've done so many times this season when they win a faceoff and they will immediately clear it for the other team through an errant pass, usually from Noah Dobson, to like a vacant point or something, and then it goes the other way. And then the slap shot from the point that nobody blocked. It became like a little bit of a thing. Everyone was asked about it, and it was the type of thing that teams will be like, oh, we got to respond from that.
Yeah. And
then the Islanders so they get outworked by Ottawa. You'd expect a better effort on Thursday. Once again, another team they're in the wild card race with. And the way the game starts, the Islanders get a power play. Max Ziplikov hits Ryan Poehling. I don't even want to get into the semantics of if it was a dirty hit or not.
Yeah.
But the point is he got hit and hit his head and was in a bad way, taken off the ice. And the Flyers galvanized around that moment. They were absolutely mauling the Islanders' Russian rookie, a guy who can absolutely stand up for himself, but he is a rookie in the league. He's just moved to this continent, and not one Islander tried to put a stop to it. If this was like the 2010 Islanders, even, and that was and someone was chopping at Blake Como's ankles or something, There would be guys there. Like Zen and Konopka would be there. Zen and Konopka or James Wisniewski, there
Right.
would be guys. Like there was those guys stood up for one another. We remember we talked about how that fight night against the Penguins really was the
Yeah.
start, maybe perhaps the start of something brewing on the island, and that's how that night really started. I mean, it started with Matt Martin cheap
Right.
chatting Max Talbot, and then like for the rest of the night he was a marked man, and it just all hell broke loose. And whatever, sometimes you need a night like that as a team to bring you together. But this team decided, like Garnet Hathaway is tackling him down the ice. Rasmus Ristolainen is tackling him down the ice. Nick Seeler's cross-checking him in like the ribs, and nobody's doing anything about it. If we all see it, they all can see it. Nobody's doing anything about it. And so this guy's skating around getting his, legs chopped dead and his ribs cross-checked. Nobody's doing anything about it. And the Flyers, meanwhile, they're just outworking the Islanders. They completely did. It's like the Islanders showed up in that second period. We're like, like what chance do we? What's even the point? Like they're obviously gonna they're mad. We're not. Like we need something to get mad about. How can we stand up to a team like this when we don't have anything to get mad about like they do? And they did. You have there's a rookie on your team getting getting harassed around the ice. Go do something about it. It was honestly the most embarrassing effort I can remember in one period from an Islander team. Because at least the ones where they'd give up 5 goals, you'd be like, well, they just suck. This team just sucks. Like they're not good. They just don't have it. And the Sedin brothers are dipsy doodling around first line Andy Hilbert or something. You can excuse that. What you can't excuse is what we saw tonight. Come on. They weren't hiding it. Like they just weren't hiding it anymore. They decided, we're just not going to even. It'd be too much of an effort to hide the fact that we don't even give a shit anymore.
This team loves to do nothing and then pat themselves on the back for the rest of the game. So they got a power play goal in the first period. Hey, congratulations. And then they did nothing for the entire second period. In the Ottawa game, they were like, hey, we won 3 games in a row. Came back and did absolutely nothing at home. And it is unreal that we are in this predicament from guys who, like you said, used to have pride in what they did. And I know I hate that I keep bringing them up. It's been 3 years. I know I need to let it go, but I'm sorry. Like the Barry Trotz experience had a very profound effect on me. And one of the biggest things that he did wasn't even on the ice. It was him coming in and within 2 months of being the head coach of the Islanders, talked about the island as an entity, as a place that was hard to play in. He talked about bringing pride back to the island and how the island is excited and how it's ready for something good. And even this current coach, who I like to call on Blue Sky, Le Coach, comes in and was like, we want to make our fans proud of us. What are we supposed to be proud of? We're supposed to be proud of this? We're supposed to be proud of a second period where you guys just let the Flyers run all over you and run up a 3-1 score without much attraction whatsoever. You guys let Garnet Hathaway score a shorthanded goal, one of the biggest pieces of shit in the league. You just he tries to fight your rookie and then you just let him score a shorthanded goal and there's no payback whatsoever. What am I supposed to be proud of? This isn't an automatic thing where you don't just put on the laundry and we're proud. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. You got to give us something here. They're not giving us anything. And I think these guys are all just, for lack of a better word, fat and happy. They're all paid well. They're all, like you said, they all get in their big, beautiful Escalades and Trailblazers and whatever other big cars they have. And they all drive back to Garden City or wherever they live in these huge mansions. And they could all just chill out and relax and nobody gives a shit. The one guy who looked like he was mad tonight was Matt Barzal. In the third period, he looked like he was very, very angry. And they even talked, and he came out in the third period, scores a goal 30 seconds in, makes it 3-2, makes you think, maybe they're going to do something here. Even the broadcasters were like, somebody must have been giving a good talking to. Maybe it was the coach. Maybe it was Lee. Maybe it was somebody else. Who knows? Barzal gets that goal. Flyers get a goal a few minutes later, make it 4-2, and then that was it. Lee had a goal later. He's had a great season. This is 20th, but they had one shot with Sorokin pulled, and then it immediately ends up in the Flyers' hands. And one of the guy, who was it? Noah Cates scores an empty net goal, and it's over. And we're left with nothing again. And by the way, I mentioned the standings before. The two teams, so the Bruins have 49 points. They're in 8th place. The teams right behind them with 1 point difference, 48 points each, are the Senators and Canadiens, both of whom are playing with rookie goalies. So don't give me this garbage about, oh, people are hurt. Oh, they've only had their full lineup for a couple of games this year. I don't care. This team doesn't give a shit. They play as if they do not care. There is no pride. There is no juice. There is no energy. There is no nothing in the way this team plays, period. They showed it for 3 games this whole season. 3. And a couple scattered around the first half of the season. This team is juiceless. And I thought that it's funny that you mentioned, like the 08, 09 team, that kind of thing. I had more fun watching this team when it was John Tavares and a bunch of dudes off the fucking street than I do watching this team right now. Like, it used to be this rookie kid, the first overall pick, some friends of his from Toronto, and some dudes that just showed up, right? Whoever, wanted to show up. And that was it. Maybe a couple of guys from Bridgeport. And a coach who looked like he walked in off the street too. That team was more fun than this team.
Yeah.
A Danish guy who always looks like he was about to cry, and, some other long-haired dudes who could fight. That was it. That was the team. And they were more fun to watch. They showed more pride in what it is to be a New York Islander than this team, which is all, capped to the gills, and the uncles. They all love each other so much. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to do anything. So this is where you end up 9th in the conference, or, whatever it is, 18th in the conference, or last in the Metro. Like, this team it's unwatchable. It's unwatchable. And it's a horrible, horrible experience. Well, I'll get to UBS in a minute, but just like, I don't know. Where else do they go from here after these two? I mean, they have 5 games left in this homestand, and they've already ruined it. I don't know what else to say.
Right. For them to salvage what's funny, actually, before I get to it, the Islanders won 3 games in a row on the road, and immediately the team was sending out, be there to Tuesday is that we kick off the homestand with ticket links, right? That's what they're supposed to do. I get that. But now imagine the Saturday night. Oh, it's Saturday night on the island. Come to the Islander ticket. Here's your ticket link. Just imagine what those comments are going to look like under that tweet, right? It'll make me. I should just unfollow and mute the team's account or something, because it would make me. It'll take a lot of self-control for me, who I think I really trying my best not to break my cardinal rule of ever tweeting. I think I've done a pretty good job of that in my older years, but it's now to the point where for them to salvage this homestand, they literally need to win the next 5 games. You got to win the next 5. And by that point, it's going to be too late to be like, oh, come see the Islanders at UBS Arena, because they'll be gone. No, there should be nobody at the game on Saturday night, and it's Hall of Fame night for Brent Sutter. Feel bad for him, poor guy. He's gonna get booed on Saturday. He's gonna, because the team's gonna get booed on the ice. He's gonna catch some strays, but it's where do you go from here? We go nowhere. That's where me, you, and the fans. I don't go near the team. I turn the game off. Like you said, they score that goal in the third, and the broadcast booth is like, wow, someone must have peeled the paint in the locker room. Where's that been all season? I was wondering that too when the puck dropped in the third. I was like, I wonder if this was the first time that in an intermission they got their asses chewed out, because it's been such a lack of accountability with this group this season for some reason, which is crazy to think, once again, because the coach is Patrick Waugh and the GM is Lou Lamoriello. If Patrick Waugh was in goal for that game, Garnet Hathaway's head would be on his stick. He would be waving it around like a head on a pike going off the ice after the second period. And Lou Lamoriello is the GM. If Lou Lamoriello of 2003 was the GM of this team, the head coach is gone. There's probably a couple players traded by the third period, because of the effort that the Islanders put out, coming off of what we've seen over the last 7 days. So they score that goal. Juices are flowing a little bit. Dennis Cholowski takes his 3rd penalty of the game.
Yep. Yeah.
He's already taken 2 penalties. He doesn't have to be out there anymore. You want to talk about accountability. You could shorten the bench by not putting out Dennis Cholowski in these situations. Like, it's okay. And whatever, maybe that's oversimplification, but the point being he already took 2 penalties in the game. Like, it's okay to not play Dennis Cholowski, but I guess this team is already like the depth has been, you talking about rotten to the core all the time, right? Like, this team is rotten. It's so rotten from player number 1 to player number 43, it seems like, because obviously what's going on in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
So Dennis Cholowski's there. He slashes a stick out of someone's hand stupidly, and like, what's going to happen to him? Not that this is all his fault, but it's just like it's such a symptom of all that's going on. That Dennis Cholowski, you come out with your hair on fire because you probably got your asses handed to you in the locker room, and Dennis Cholowski's just going to undo all of that and give the team an excuse to sag, because that's what they did. He took the penalty. I know they didn't score on the power play. They scored a second afterwards, and I know Sorokin probably should have had that goal, whatever. But the team sagged, and they're like, oh, well, we tried hard for those couple minutes, and what were we going to do? We took a penalty, and they scored. Like, you expect us now to fight back from 2 goals down again?
Yeah. They love to do nothing and then get credit for it.
Well, it was the second period is a great example of that, right? So embarrassing. Like, I still cannot get over how mad I am about the Siplikov thing. And it goes back to the Max Domi thing. Like, think about what Max Domi did to Isaiah George a couple weeks ago.
Right.
It was not that dissimilar to Siplikov on Paling. And the Flyers were on Siplikov for the rest of the game. They play each other 2 more times in like the next few days. Just like the Leafs and Islanders. And the Islanders did nothing about that elbow to their rookie's head. Meanwhile, the Flyers are making life hell for Siplikov. Like, there's none of that fight. So where do you go from here? You go nowhere near this team because they don't deserve it. They're not doing what you're supposed to do, what you show up for, what you sign up for as a hockey player, which is at the bare minimum, you're supposed to stick up for one another because they're wearing the crest, which has our homeland on it, by the way. Like, it's embarrassing. And the thing that sucks is, like, they're just going to take the day off tomorrow. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Then they'll show up on Saturday. Maybe they'll beat the Sharks and be like, oh, we just got to string some wins together here. And nothing's going to change. Like, if nothing changed, as you said, it's probably all goes back to that season. If nothing's changed since that season, what evidence do we have that they're gonna do something to, like, change the actual DNA of who they are as a team now?
Yeah. I mean, you said on the last episode of Anxiety, like, they were out of the playoffs, earlier than they are now, or, pretty clearly, and they didn't trade anybody. They didn't do anything. And so, I mean, again, I think that's the season where it went off the rails. What this team needs, and this is where I was getting really depressed about after the Ottawa game, and it just sort of compounded to tonight after this Flyers game. What this team needs more than anything, I know we can debate, well, you should trade this guy, trade that guy. They need to get this, they need to get that. What this team needs is a total 100% franchise attitude reboot. And that's, by the way, going to be the title of this episode. Franchise attitude reboot. Now, bear in mind, that doesn't mean a ground up rebuild, because we've talked about how much we don't want that, because it means 15 or 20 years without making the playoffs. The attitude of this team needs to be rebooted. They have none. They don't care. Like, they play like they don't care, or they play like the season is 162 games, like a baseball season. Like, oh, we lost. That's okay. We got 3 more games coming up this week. No, you have 1, and there's other teams around you that are winning, and they don't give a shit about you. This team needs a 100% franchise attitude reboot in the worst way possible. And honestly, it starts at the top. And I don't mean just Lou Lamoriello. I mean, the ownership needs to reboot what they think about this team is supposed to be. And I know that Scott Malkin lives in London. I know that John Ledecky loves smiling and shaking hands, and I'm sure he's a very nice guy. But this team needs to do something, because you're going to be looking at a lot of empty seats and a lot of unhappy customers and a lot of canceled season tickets, because I don't want to watch this team, and I just watch them on TV. If you're a season ticket holder, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you plunk down 4 digits to watch this team go through the motions against the goddamn Ottawa Senators. Again, no offense. Like, it's embarrassing and it's awful, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. I mean, okay, great. So somebody yelled in the locker room. They still lost the game. Who cares? Your team lost. What is that? It doesn't mean anything. Okay, great. Somebody got mad. I think it was Barzell who got mad, because, again, the look on his face seemed like he was pretty pissed off. But if he's the only guy who's pissed off, and there's 21 guys who aren't pissed off, And, and even him, like in the second period, he was driving me crazy because he loves to skate around and it means nothing.
The
Like, at least
only
this time
guy,
he
I think
scored a
the
goal.
only guy who actually showed up from minute 1 to minute 60 tonight was Siplikov.
Yeah.
The guy who was getting hounded.
Right. I was going to say, because the flies were on his ass.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's what this team is like. You were talking about like a reboot. Like they need to reboot from what their current MO and DNA is, which is just, they're like bad politicians. Like they're just like lying to our faces, like in PR speak and putting up. They put out a press release. It's like in with bad politicians. You see them do something, you're like, wow, that was shady shit, and then they put out a press release like, yeah, you might have caught. I was on the camera in this, doing this and glad handing that mobster, but here's my explanation is that like I was shaking his hand because he's he was helping me change my tire or something. Like that's what this team does. Like they put out the weakest political press release shit after every game. Like, well, we always like to say, oh, they pushed back and we knew they were going to come pushing and we just weren't able to get the bounces, right? Like that's what this team does. Like they even that second period was like that. They got absolutely embarrassed for 18 minutes and for like the last minute and a half they tried hard. So that they could go into the locker room being like, did we fool them? Do you think they bought it? Do you think they bought it? And when you come after a game and say that, we believe in this room, even though there's now 200 and how many games? 27, 238 games of evidence that
219.
219 games of evidence that this room isn't to be believed in anymore.
Yeah.
You can't come out and say, we still believe in the room.
Right.
Nobody's buying it. Like,
no.
We're fools for buying it as long as we did, because people outside the island were like, you guys are fools for buying it as long as you've been buying it. And we just are very attached to this group, I think for very good and noble reasons. And sports are supposed to be romantic and it's about like Corinthian values and all that. Like that's the how sports started. Like my factory is playing your factory in soccer today. And like I want my factory to win. It's good for the town if we win. And like there's a little bit of that beauty to the Islanders with these guys who've been around for so long, but it's over. It used to be. It used to be. Right. Because like they bought into it too, and like they got the romanticism of what they were doing, and now they're just it's drab and sad, and it is going to look exactly like it did in the late 90s, and it's going to look exactly like it did in the late aughts and the early aughts, but like before there was any juice to the building. It's going to be terrible. Like there's a difference between having a bad season because your team is bad and having this kind of season where you can't even stomach the idea of watching them because you don't even want them to win. You don't want them to lose. You don't want to root for them to lose. You don't like any of them. You're just waiting for them all to leave and go home. It's such a terrible experience, and now we're all gonna have to deal with that now. Like it's of their own making. Like it's their fault. They fucked this up so good. By doing so many stupid things wrong. The penalty kill, the power play. The lack of scoring, the stupid turnovers. I'm like, for some reason, Pierre Engvall's turnover against the Montreal Canadiens last year and Patrick Roy, his return or his like first game, like that kind of shit just happens over and over. Dennis Cholowski taking a slashing penalty. Dennis Cholowski is playing like 30 games this season.
Last year it was this year. We called it just a parade of inexcusable bullshit. Every single game.
Inexcusable bullshit.
That's all it is.
So you're going to show up to UBS Arena to watch. It's one thing to watch a parade of inexcusable bullshit in like a big game, and it just happens, and sports happens or whatever. But it's a totally other one to show up to a meaningless game for the Islanders, which they're basically all meaningless now for the next 38 or whatever is left. So congratulations. It sucks. So you're going to show up to watch a parade of inexcusable bullshit in a meaningless game and watch guys go through the motion and pay money to do that? Absolutely not. It's going to be hell. And it starts Saturday with what's I hope is a crowd that gives boo them onto the ice, please.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, the only person who deserves praise in that game is Brent Sutter. He's the only guy who gets any applause. Everybody else doesn't get any applause. Seriously, he didn't do anything wrong. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. But I'm glad you brought up like the drabness, because, and this is where I have to, because I'm mad, I'm going to go on this thing about UBS Arena, because this really came up after the Ottawa game, which was one of the most boringly awful games I've ever seen. It was just a huge big blah and a snoozer right from the get-go. And again, had the Islanders did their job and like kept the Senators from scoring like they used to do, then it would have been good boring, but this was bad boring. I'm so thankful for UBS Arena. It's a beautiful building. It's dripping with Islanders history. We waited forever for it. We never thought we were going to get something like this. It's like energy efficient and it's environmentally friendly. And yeah, they got a bunch of tax breaks, but like it was paid for privately, which is literally the best you're going to get this year. Maybe one day one of these rich guys will pay for their own building for their professional team to play in, but that day is not today. Then this is the best you're going to get. So it is what it is. It's expensive and the parking is whatever it is. But I mean, like if you're an able-bodied human, just suck it up and walk from the parking lot. Like it can be done. And that's just kind of, again, the price of doing business these days. So there's a lot to love about UBS Arena. But the vibes that this team and that arena give off are absolutely stale and unappealing to the core. Like watching it at home is an incredibly unappealing experience. Watching it in the arena isn't much better because the game ops is not really, it's as stale as the roster is. Everybody, players, coaches, management, owners, they have conspired to make this, the vibes of this arena, I don't want to say rancid because they're not rancid. They're just unappealing and just boring. And I don't blame people for not cheering or going crazy at the games because the team's not giving you anything. The games are low scoring. They give up goals at the wrong time. They don't have any like exciting play. I mean, Barzal's the only guy who like kind of gets you out of your seat, but we've seen this guy's act for 500 games now. We know what he does. He's going to get up ahead of steam. He's going to skate around. He's going to throw the puck into somebody's skates. Like that's what's going to happen for the most part. Okay, he scored tonight, but like there's nothing to get you excited. And they can play the music as loud as they want, but like it's just it's not. There's just nothing interesting about this. Even the camera angles aren't exciting. They don't make it look like it's exciting. Nothing about these games makes me want to be there. And it just, Nassau Coliseum was better at that, and the place was falling apart. And I'm sorry to say this, but like at this point, UBS Arena it's like a food court with an ice rink in the middle of it. Like that's basically what it is. We used to make fun of the Hartford Whalers for playing in a mall, but UBS's mall is, a couple of blocks away and is full of stores that you, I, and most of the people listening to this are never going to shop at. We're never going to shop at that mall. There's no GameStops. There's no arcade in that mall, so I have no use for it. This arena right now is gorgeous and is beautiful and is wonderful and is, state of the art as it is, just gives off vibes that are repulsive, that they do not make you, they are not inviting. They are not calling you. I can't imagine any Flyers fan was watching this being like, you know what? I got to get to UBS one of these days. Why would they say that? There's nothing about it that makes you do it. Like, it's awful. It's a food court with an ice rink in the middle of it. The food is great. It's expensive, but it's great. And a hockey team plays there. That's it. That's all I can tell you. Like, it's horrible. It's really bad. And it sucks. This thing is 3 years old. It sucks. Why is it like this? It's 3 years old. What have you guys done in 3 seasons to make this feel this way. It's wrong. Another thing that just pisses me off. They've taken this from us too. Like, we waited all this time for a brand new arena, and we can't even enjoy it because these guys suck in the worst possible way. It's really a shame. I don't know. Maybe you've been there a lot more than I have. Like, am I off base? Am I crazy?
No,
but it's just
no. There's a huge difference between the team being bad at Nassau Coliseum and the team being like this at UBS, because Nassau Coliseum had an attitude, like, and you felt like, oh, I can curse out the Islanders. I can tell Bruno Gervais where to stick it because he just made another stupid mistake because I'm in Nassau Coliseum.
Right.
Like, it's a little different when you're at UBS. You feel like, you know, you got to be a little more buttoned up and about everything. And I don't know if it's anyone's fault other than the team that it's like this. Like, they are, what are they, 7-10-5 or some creepy record like that at home this year? And even the wins, like there was one win against the Canadians that wasn't all that impressive. There have been very few impressive wins
7-11
at home, besides 7-11-2 at home. Oh my God. And this is the team that, you know, as you said, Patrick Waugh said all the right things, saying, "Oh, we want you to be proud of us. We have to play." And he said it like 2 weeks ago. We got to play better at home. Our fans deserve better. Then go do it.
Yeah.
Like, go do it. Like, and I know it sounds so simple to say, like, go win a hockey game or just go do it. But when you watch that second period tonight, it should be that simple, because if the Islanders had just worked as hard as the Flyers did, and actually engaged in the game rather than turning the other cheek, they win that hockey game. And UBS Arena doesn't look the way it does. It looks, you know what it looks like? God forbid you're in a hospital. Like, you know how there's parts of a hospital that are like less like morbid, like they're just, you know, ambulatory or whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like that sometimes. It's like it's bright, and like the paint's the walls are painted. You know, the paint's not chipping off the walls like it is at Nassau Coliseum or whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
A courtyard or a cafe or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. There's like nice security guards smiling at you and helping you because you're a little lost. You don't know where to go. The hallways are well lit. It feels like that. It feels like one of those buildings, like a sanitized corporate, you know, like medical park.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like right now. And it's their fault that it feels that way, because they don't win at home. And not only do they not win at home, they don't play hard. The team always likes to clip like the team coming out for warm-ups. Every team does it, obviously, and like you see the guys, that the players are all jacked up or whatever, and you'd expect there to be like they're supposed to get an ovation. But why on earth would anybody get pumped up to see Casey Zizekas like fly out of the hallway onto the ice right now? He doesn't deserve it. None of them do, because whether whoever's fault it was that they lost, like, I mean, Noah Dobson was brutal tonight, absolutely brutal. That if you've ever not really picked up on the joke of when we started talking about how Noah Dobson plays like he has his cell phone with him during the game, that goal is exactly what we're talking about. He was checking, he's checking his phone and letting a pass just come right across his kitchen to the guy, to enemy number one of the night.
Yeah. I will say this though, in Dobson, you're 100% right. He was terrible in this game. However, he did force a nice turnover, which led to Barzell's 2-on-1
Yeah, he
goal.
got mad for 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? They know that, like, oh God, I said it the other day about like how in school our finals were 50% of our final grade, and you could kind of coast through the trimester, then make it up with your final exam at the end of every trimester. That's how this team does. Like, that's how Noah, he's like, oh man, I've been shitty tonight, but if I just make one play, that'll change everything. No, that's not how it works. But yeah, I don't like the arena right now. The arena it's not part of the problem, but it is a problem because of the problem, where it's not inviting, it's not exciting, because the team that plays inside of it is not working hard to make you feel like you want to go there. It would be like if, what's like a movie that the Garfield movie from like 2005 with Breckin Meyer. If they were like, come to this beautiful movie theater with like the reclining seats and all this stuff, but we only play the Garfield movie with Breckin Meyer at this
Right.
theater.
Yeah.
Would you go to that
that's
movie
exactly what it
theater
would be.
even if it had all
Right.
the bells and whistles?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I
Come
wouldn't.
see the arena, and the only movie that we play is Ant-Man Quantumania. Like, I don't want to watch this again. Like, come on, man. Like, what? I don't even know what's happening right now.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. We could name movies all day, but like, yeah, no, that's 100% right. It's just whatever's going on in there it's not exciting. It's not appealing, and it's a shame. And you're right, it's not a problem. I'm not sitting here like blaming the arena for this because it's not its fault, but
No, it's not. But
it's awful.
it deserves the rant because it's gotten to the point where we're now running out of animate things to be mad at. We can now be mad at the inanimate things.
Yeah.
Like the arena or the intangible things like game ops or whatever, but that's because losing has consequences. And you know what else is nuts? And you know what else is nuts is that like you watch I was flipping through other games and I'm watching I'm watching like the Devils and the Leafs. I was watching a little bit of the Blue Jackets game. Because I'm still scoreboard watching because I'm a fucking loser. And I'm like, all right, if the Red Wings lose this game and the Blue Jackets lose this game, we're only 8 points back and we're still in this thing, baby.
Right.
I'm a huge loser. So I'm watching these games and trying to get invested. And every time I watch them, those other games, I'm like, damn, those teams are flying all over the ice. They're skating, they're hitting, they're doing, they're acting. You know what they're doing? I realized they're acting like a normal fucking hockey team. The Islanders are not doing that. They're not even ticking the boxes to just be a normal hockey team, which is be physical, work hard, and try your best. Those are like the hallmarks of the sport. That's what you're supposed to just do. And you might not be good enough to win a game, but you leave it out there. And they've done it like 6 times this season where you've left a game been like, wow, those guys worked their bags off today. It's so pathetic, and the worst part is we're going to bed tonight in a couple minutes, and we're gonna wake up tomorrow and we're living in the same world where they don't do anything about it. Fuck this team.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Just these guys, they don't deserve our time. They don't deserve our money. They don't even deserve this podcast. Like, just don't deserve anything. And it's such a shame because it's not long ago that we would have laid down in traffic for this team.
Oh my God!
Those are the feelings that they gave
I would have paid Brock Nelson's mortgage. I would have found a way to fucking pay that guy's mortgage.
Yeah.
Even though I'd be like, you make $6 million a year, Brock, but I'm still gonna do this for you because you mean that much to me.
Yeah. And now I don't know. I don't even know what to say anymore. That's the other thing too. And we're going to wrap this up soon because it is late, but like you were on Hockey Night in New York this week with Sean. It was great. If people haven't watched it, you should go watch it. And I was thinking about this while you guys were talking. And again, this isn't anything about you guys because you guys did a great job, but I was thinking about this too. Cause like we have our show, Sean's had his show. I listened to Skates at the Stakes today. You know, there's Isles House, there's Through the Island, there's the whole gamut of Islanders podcasts. And as a person with one of those podcasts, one of the longest running of those podcasts, I'm kind of sick to death of having the same conversations and hearing the same conversations about the same people over and over and over again. Right? We have been talking about these people in some cases for 800 games of their careers or in 219 games over the last 3 seasons. I'm sick of having these same conversations. Yep. When is Noah Dobson going to look like his 70-point form again? When is Kyle Palmieri going to score again? When is Casey Zizekas going to look like Casey Zizekas again? Like, we've all had these conversations. You guys had those conversations. We've had those conversations. You know, other podcasts have had people have written about these conversations. Like, they're on Twitter all the time. I'm tired of these conversations. This team is stale. It is cooked. They need a full franchise attitude reboot, something. Give us something, anything, please. You know, and usually when you say that, then the monkey's paw curls and, they end up, again, going the full rebuild mode and missing the playoffs for 15 years. I don't know if I would want that. I don't want that either, but can't live like this, man. Can't do it.
No, we don't. We deserve a response. Like if the team isn't going to respond on the ice, you remember, like a couple months ago, there was that game against the Blackhawks where they gave up those goals late, and
Right.
Patrick, it was the first time Patrick Waugh got mad, and we're like, wow, they're gonna have a response for the next game, and then they lost to the fucking Blackhawks. Like, if they're not gonna give us a response, somebody else has to do something. And meeting the media in Las Vegas and saying that you believe in the room isn't the response. It's make it worth our while to not just go to the games, but to do something as simple, except, obviously with the Gotham Sports app, nothing is that simple, but to do something as simple as turning on the goddamn game. I'm so pathetic that, like, I turned the game off shortly after the Flyers made it 4-2, and I could and the thing that pissed me off was the Islanders had like a decent shift after that goal. And then the next group that came out of the ice, like Casey Zizekas was on the ice. I was like, oh yeah, they're not going to fucking score again because like they have bad players. Like they don't have many good players. And why am I trying to convince myself that they're going to build momentum off that shift by one of their good lines when the next line's coming out and they're going to play terrible? So I just turned the game off, and then I turned it back on like 2 minutes later, and then I turned it back off, and I was doing some dishes, and I turned it back on, and I'm like, I'm such a loser. I can't even just turn the game off. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, make it worth that kind of. If your fans are that big of a loser, we care this much, we're invested this much, make it worth our while with something. And that this team hasn't done that in since Ryan Pulock made that save and Beauvillier scored that goal. Honestly, like when has it really truly been worth it? Yeah, the runs to make the playoffs were fun at the end of the last 2 seasons, but to get to those points. It was hell. It was not fun. It was not fun at all until the last 10 games of the last 2 seasons. There's been game 219 of the 2021-2022 season. So there's been 219 games played.
Yeah.
Even including the wins, there'd been like 40 of those that have been enjoyable.
Yeah.
40 out of 220. And that might be overshooting it.
Possibly. Right. Because like even that run, not last year's run, but the one before, like we laughed more than anything because Peter Mrazek beat the Penguins like in the last game of the season or whatever it was. Like, and it was stupid. It was more stupid than anything else.
It was more stupid than fun. Last year, like, was legitimately like they went on a run. Congratulations, you went 8-1-1 over a 10-game stretch and got into the playoffs in a terrible conference. Then you got bounced in 5 games.
Right.
And Robert Bortuzzo was like the star. the only good moment of the fucking series was provided by Robert fucking Bortuzzo.
Right.
Like that's not enough to keep to keep people coming back. And when I'm talking about people, I'm talking about normal people. Like what?
Right.
Why is someone who isn't up at 11:30 screaming into a microphone about Robert fucking Bortuzzo? Like normal people are not going to come to the arena. Because we had a good stretch at the end of last season. Normal people are not going to turn the game on, and that's that. It's going to have a residual effect. Like we finally have a fan base that is like a little younger because the team was successful as a new generation was growing up, and you see more Islander gear. That's all going to go away if it keeps going down this path. So, it's not fun at all right now. Not fun at all. And I really hope that I have the willpower to not watch on Saturday. I said this to our buddy Matt after the game, was like the thing I really am most upset about is that I just didn't cut the cord with this team as soon as I said earlier, as soon as that goal went in from Dylan Guenther. That's because it was so evident in the first game of the season. It was so evident that this team hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. And in that, after that game, somebody asked Noah Dobson, this kind of performance was a problem for you guys last year, blowing the leads, it's giving up goals right after you scored, all that kind of jargon. And Dobson said, yeah, but that last year doesn't matter. This is a new season. We just got to look ahead. No, dude. This team needs to fucking look back and be like, it's been happening since 2000 for 220 games. So obviously what happened in the past does matter because it keeps happening over and over and over and over again. And it's driving us crazy. None of us want to be around it. And you're starting, we said all last year, like the thing you don't want to start happening is to start disdaining these guys that we've loved so much for so long. And boy, it's getting close, man. It's getting so close. And it's the last place I want to be as an Islander fan.
Game one was the red flag. They hadn't learned a goddamn thing. And here
They
we
haven't
are
learned a goddamn
43
thing.
games later. And, they're still doing it. Still doing it. And they're going to keep on doing it. And
They're gonna keep
it's
on.
wrong.
And they're gonna keep on
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
Like there's a really good possibility that we've wasted our bullet on having like an emergency podcast late after a game before we probably should have, because what's gonna happen on Saturday or Tuesday will probably be just as ugly as what happened tonight.
Yeah.
But I was
Yeah.
so fucking offended by the second
It was
period
bad.
tonight. It
Yeah.
was so it.
Yeah.
I think we let like a lot go from in terms of like effort or whatever. I think it's very sports radio-y to accuse people of not trying, and but that one sent me over an edge to that I haven't been over in a long time. I don't know. I was racking my brain for more embarrassing times.
That's the way I felt after the Ottawa game. I was still mad Wednesday. I was sitting at work. I go to the office Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'm sitting in my office, and I was still mad. I was still mad because there wasn't one Islander standing in front of Levi Merlanen the entire time, for 60 minutes. Yeah. And Patrick Waugh said it after the game. Anthony Duclair said it after the game. I'm sure somebody else said it after the game. Not a single Islander, not a single person in blue and orange stood in front of a 20-whatever-year-old goalie for 60 minutes. They lost 1-0 basically because it was an empty net goal. And I was mad about it for 48 straight hours. Like, because I mean, we need to wrap this up, but like, it made me think of the Doug Waite season and how that team couldn't defend for shit. And that's why they missed the playoffs. And like, the thing that made me the most mad that entire season was he kept using the word unacceptable and then nothing changed. And I was like, okay, words have meanings. You can't say something is unacceptable after you've accepted it 82 times. Like, it doesn't work that way. The word that needs to mean something. Like, if it's unacceptable, then don't accept it. Then change it. These guys, they don't want to change. They don't. No, I'm not saying that I don't want to, like you said, I mean, it's very sports radio to accuse them of being lazy or whatever. I know I did it already, but like, these guys, they just don't have it in them. They just don't have it anymore. Like, they're just cooked. That's all I can say. I've said it 3 times now, but that's it. That's all you can say.
It seems like they can't wait to, like, every time they get onto the bench after a shift, they like look at, they're like, oh, thank God I don't have to go back out there for a few more minutes because this isn't fun. It's not fun for anyone. Maybe you can make an argument that like Max Siplikov, Isaiah George, and Dennis Cholowski are having fun because they're not like established NHLers. You think fucking Pierre Engvall's having fun this season?
Absolutely not.
No. Matt
Anders
Martin
Lee might be having fun.
Yeah, he's having fun, and it's funny. Like Anders Lee having a great season, all that is great. If I was Patrick, I'm sure Patrick Waugh would say it. Like Joe Sakic or whoever was the captain of the Canadiens back then. What was it? Not Doug Harvey. Whoever was the captain of the Canadiens when Waugh was on the team and in their heyday. Those captains, Guy Charbonneau. Yeah, like those captains back in the day, like what it meant to be an NHL captain. Like there's an image in your head, and Anders Lee is that image a lot. But the team is, I feel like, crying out to get punched in the face right now, and I think he's really got to do it. Like, it's great, scoring 20 goals, he's having an amazing season. Probably the team's best forward all season, and a really good story considering where his career looked like it was going. So I give him all the credit in the world, but punch someone in the face, man. Like, go have like a feud, a blood feud like the Canucks are having or something. These guys need to start hating each other one again. It's very like HR in there. It's they're like a union. They're almost like a union inside the players' union. You can't say anything bad or anything.
It's the Uncles Union.
The Uncles.
We already named it. Exactly. But like, I mean, on one hand, I love what Anders is doing this season, but on the other hand, I want him to just grab somebody by the collar and just throw him up against the wall like Popeye Doyle in the French Connection and be like, what are you doing out there? You know, just something, please. In the middle of a game, I want to see him pick up one of his own teammates and plaster him against the glass with like a, elbow or whatever, his forearm in his neck, like TV cop. But okay, we're going to end it here. We hope that our ranting has helped you get over these couple of games. I don't know. We can't do anything. All we can do is either watch or don't watch. And our friend, shout out to Isles Chick, our friend Lisa, who was saying, she's got tickets for next Friday and Saturday, and I was like, sell them and go to the movies because it's not worth it. It's not worth going to these two games. I don't know, but I don't know. She'll be there. She's much more dedicated than we are. But if you wanted to sell your tickets and use the money, give it a charity or something, you'd be better off doing that. But in any event, we will be back on Sunday with a brand new episode of Islanders Anxiety, and we will have a Master Pens Theater, which covers the waiving of Tristan Jarry, which was a lot of fun. See, we can't even enjoy that kind of stuff.
I know. They've ruined everything.
Right.
They've ruined everything. There's a lot of fun. I was thinking about that tonight. There's a lot of fun shit going on. Yeah. And I just get mad seeing it. Like Ovechkin's goal chase. He scored again tonight in overtime, like a game winner. And it made me mad because I was like, fuck the Islanders. Yeah. And it's got nothing to do with it. That's what it made me feel, though. So they've spoiled a lot here. Right. Not that I would care about the Four Nations Cup, but like if I had to watch a second of that, I'd just be mad at the Islanders watching it.
Yeah. Like the Canucks thing you just mentioned, the implosion of the Penguins, the Habs and Senators. We talked about this on our mailbag episode over at the Patreon. And if you want to listen to it, sign up at patreon.com/islandersanxiety and to the country club tier. I was thinking, it's not in my DNA to root against the Islanders making the playoffs. Like I have to root for them to make the playoffs. But at this point, honestly, I'd rather see the Habs, Senators, frankly, or the Flyers in the playoffs. I don't want to see the Islanders in the playoffs. Like I'm not going to root against them, but if I had to pick, watching those three teams battle it out for that last playoff spot would be a lot more interesting than whatever it is the Islanders are doing.
It was a couple of years ago after the Islanders traded for Horvat, and like everyone was like, "Oh man, wouldn't it be great? Why do the Islanders why do they have to ruin it and take the Sabres playoff spot? This sucks." And that made me mad. This year, I'd be like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, fuck the Islanders, get the Habs, give it to the Senators, those teams, those fans, please. Like, this team does not deserve it at all." And I say that, but go ahead and win 5 games in a row, please. Like, go through the season, you fuckers. Like, do it.
Seriously, right? Or take a walk into Lake Ronkonkoma. Like, do one or the other. That's what you got to do. Like, I don't. You're either going to win a bunch of games or just don't, and just wave a white flag and trade everybody because I can't take it. But that being said, if I get a first round series of Senators and Leafs and the Senators or Canadians beat the Leafs in the first round, I'll be very, very happy.
Oh my
God. You know where to find us everywhere podcasts are. Patreon.com/islandersanxiety. Sign up, listen to our mailbag. We had a lot of fun with the mailbag if you want your mind taken off of it. We were in a good mood that night, but we got a lot of great questions. Check it out there. Our theme song, of course, is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. They have a record, God Looks Out for Fools. You can listen to it on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day. We're part of the Fans First Sports Network. ShopVintageIceHockey.com. Dry Wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. No final thought tonight. We're done.
No.
Just go out and win some games. Win a game for Brent Sutter. I mean, come on. Please. Do something. Do something to show Long Island and the old Islanders that are going to be there on Saturday that you care and that you want to be Islanders and that you care about being an Islander. That's all we're asking for. Just, if the season was going badly, but you guys were playing well, then we'd be like, hey, what are you going to do? But like, it's not, and you're not. So I don't know what to tell you guys. So that's it. We'll be back on Sunday. All right. Talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.